one of the common things with the landlord nowadays is if one member of the family succeed, now the burden of the whole clan becomes yours. You see?
Yes.
It doesn't even give you opportunity to be able, whatever that opportunity you have got, how do you expand it so that it can be able to be enough? So you create opportunity that will bring these people in,
Yes.
and the human capital of these people will help to grow that opportunity that you have.
Yes, yes, yes.
So it's more of spending. Make sure that I'm trying to take care of everybody. You think that the little you have, you will pile the property down. And then that one person will get worn out. And then when it's gone, everybody go back to where they were.
Yeah.
You see?
Wadau, here's another conversation that I guarantee will change how you think about money.
Sometimes people can have even payout of almost about 5 million Kenya shilling.
5 million
Kenya shilling, yeah.
From a merry-go-round.
Yeah, from a merry-go-round.
What we call chama.
Yeah, for chama. But when that pesa ya chama inakuja,
yes,
you come and remove every furniture you have in the house and buy a brand new house, furniture.
Unajua, it's very rare that you find someone talking about billions as casually as our guest for this episode, Gabriel Maketh, and in the course of this conversation, you're gonna understand why.
In 5 years, we were able to mobilize over $2 million.
Who talks about billions as casually as Gabriel Maketh?
We are now working on a project that will build about 130 homes. So that is going to be a project of about 2 billion Kenyan shilling when everything is built. Build a business of getting a wealth, but make an investment of purpose. Like, what is the impact of what you're doing?
Our guest for this episode, Gabriel Maketh, is a true definition of started from the bottom.
In those camps, sometimes they know enough food. So in order for us to survive, you have to eat one meal a day.
And it's the kind of starting from the bottom that comes with verifiable receipts.
My attitude was, at least there are 3 families back in Africa that have a lunch today because of what I'm doing.
The story of Gabriel Maketh is a story of defying all odds, from having no country at some point.
We were in a rebel control areas, and the government air force sometimes will come with an airplane, and when they detected you, they will just bomb you.
Going to America and coming back to build America in Africa.
So when you think about building a generational wealth, real estate is the way to go.
I'm your host, Dr. Kingori, and here's another reason to stay subscribed to our channel. Kama uja subscribe maze, hii hapa ni sababu. This is another reason to hit subscribe and turn on the notifications bell. But now, if you're ever in need of an office space, please Poa inaweza bring out the best in you as far as creativity is concerned, as far as productivity is concerned. Hautaki kwenda kwa hustle ya kuhire space, sijui kurent, ulipe goodwill and hizo vitu zote. You need to consider checking out Wojo. Wojo is a premium co-working space located in Upper Hill, Nairobi, Makio Hotel, formerly Crown Plaza. Wako na anything you'll ever need in an office and so much more. I'm talking about a gym. Hautawai worry about parking, swimming pool, bottomless coffee, beautifully furnished spaces including private offices and meeting room. Wi-Fi is super fast and the list is endless. You can get in touch with the team at Wojo kutumia hizi contact details tumewekea hapa kwa screen. Gabriel, karibu sana.
Asante sana.
I know this was not the plan.
Okay.
Conversation with you is very rich.
Yeah.
No pun intended. But then, before we get on set, you say something that really unlocks my mind, something that I've never thought of. Your analysis on generational wealth and in the cultural link to it, and you gave an example of nilots. Just for the benefit of our audience, please break it down for us again. I was very interested in that.
So what is happening is this. Opportunity does not actually mean wealth itself. You can have opportunity,
yes,
but does not translate to wealth.
Yes.
It needs some work for that opportunity to be translated to wealth. So one of the things I realized living as a South Sudanese and also living in Kenya, there is what I call a nilotic factor, whereby some of our cultures,
yes,
they're hindering us from building a wealth. One example is opportunities we have. Most of the landlords, they have vast land. for example.
Yes, 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 yes.
But we tend also to have big families. Let's say when Kenya get independent in 1963,
Yes.
a person have 100 acres of land. Generation is measured in 20 years. Every 20 years is new generation.
Yes.
So let's say in 1963, this old man has about 10 kids.
Because he's polygamous.
He is polygamous.
From a cultural perspective.
From a cultural perspective.
Yes.
And he's just managing the small land that they have. 20 years will be 1983. So let's say 1983, the old man thinks that he's older. He wants to give the land to his children. He will give each of the child 10 acres. So that child will inherit only 10 acres. That's what he will inherit. And this child, maybe you're not doing anything else, is that 10 acres. 20 years later, you have 10 children of your own.
Yes.
That will be around 2003. So 2003, you subdivide that land, which means each of your child is getting 1 acre of the land. Then now, 20 years later, that will be 2023. Each of that generation has another 10 child. That land will go down to be subdivided into eighths of each family.
Yes.
So now you have a family that have 100 acres 40 years ago, and now 40 years later, each family member is owning an eighth.
Okay.
So they have transitioned from a potential wealth to poverty.
And does this mean that the generation that inherits the land, say for example, when they get 10 acres, for the most part, they're just comfortable that they have the land, there's no need to multiply?
No need to multiply, because, again, we have a culture as Lilot that look inside rather than looking outside. And that one is, how do the world see me? So that means if I get something small, I am trying to run around and try to mask the eye of the world that my people are not suffering. So you are dressing a wound instead of solving the problem. So what about, let's go back to the example of about 100 acres. So what about if that time the great-grandfather disposed maybe 90 acres and remain with 10 acres, and then find something that will generate more money that he can buy another 100 acres. So the next generation will actually inherit 200 acres instead of 10 acres that each of them are doing it. And then maybe the next generation as well, when the time comes, try to use what the land to be just a starting of the wealth, but not the primarily your source of income alone.
Yes.
We have to do other stuff.
Okay, does this mean, you've said something very interesting. We look, as in Nilots, look at the world from inside. They look at the world,
Yeah,
like what the people think about me.
Yeah, what the world think about them. Because like one of the common thing with the landlord nowadays is if one member of the family succeed, now the burden of the whole clan becomes yours. You see?
Yes.
It doesn't even give you opportunity to be able, whatever that opportunity you have got, how do you expand it so that it can be able to be enough? So you create opportunity that will bring these people in,
Yes.
and the human capital of these people will help to grow that opportunity that you have.
Yes, yes, yes.
So
yes,
it's more of spending. Make sure that I'm trying to take care of everybody. You think that the little you have, you will fight the property down. And then that one person will get worn out. And then when it's gone, everybody go back to where they were.
Yeah.
You see?
And this also carries the example of the people outside the country, come outside Kenya, outside South Sudan, when they have access to money, for example.
Yeah.
In the merry-go-round example.
Yeah. So again, I see in my community whereby the women, they have merry-go-round.
Yes.
Sometimes people can have even payout of almost about 5 million Kenya shilling.
5 million
Kenyan shilling. Yeah,
from
you're
a
paying.
merry-go-round.
Yeah, for a merry-go-round.
What we call chama.
Yeah, for chama.
Yes.
But when that pesa ya chama inakuja,
Yes.
you come and remove every furniture you have in the house and buy a brand new house furniture. Because your worry is, how will the other woman see my house? How do I look? How do I look?
What is the alternative? Now I understand. How do I look? What is the alternative? Like looking at the world from inside out.
The alternative is we are living in a global economy whereby your children are not just competing with the children of neighbors. Your children are competing with the Japanese. They are competing with the Koreans. Mm-hmm. They are competing with the Russian. Mm. What do you need to do to be able to put your child one step ahead? And this is where the investment come in,
yes,
especially in the idea of real estate. Mm. Because remember, Mark Twain, who used to say, God is not making any more land. Whatever we got, that's what we got. So you need to secure as much as you can. And you need your next generation to secure as much as you can. You see. Last year I went to Malindi.
Yes.
I went to the most remote area of Malindi. I found that the hectare was going for about 30,000 Kenyan shilling per acre in Malindi.
Clean transaction. I'll
clean.
give you 30,000, you'll give me 1 acre.
One acre of land around Malindi. I see a group of Koreans. They bought 60,000 acres of land. So outside Malindi, Koreans are there trying to grow cassava. And when you come to the shore of the ocean, they are the Italians. What about if we would have just live here? We go to Malindi, we just go and get 1,000 acres. We put goats there. We doesn't require a lot of work. We put few people there. We can be able to open a restaurant here, and all our supply coming from Malindi, and that restaurant will make us money, and that money will help us to buy more land. But in order for it to work, it needs money hands, so that we can be able to build a common infrastructure. Common infrastructure is what gives us success.
Common infrastructure.
Yeah, common infrastructure. So everybody can do their own, like now I can go with my goats, he come with his goat, I come with my goat. But we are able to put the money together to be able to dig the borehole so that the goat can have the water.
I can't wait for us to get to the part where you're actually doing that in Nakuru. Yes. But then there's a question of where do you get these people with common ideas without shortchanging each other, without, we've had such ideas of land buying companies. Oh Lord. We have one in Muranga called Kehiumwere, very popular, always in the news because you get elected as a director, obituary. They had a trend like that one. We had another land buying company where they knew a chairman cannot survive for more than a year, right? This is part of human nature, right? How do you get around that? It's a brilliant idea for wealth creation, but how do you get around that? Wadau, quick one before tuendelee na conversation. You're outside the country. You're looking for a super fast and safe way you can send money back to Kenya. You're looking to send as much as possible. You want to send more and spend less, like killing two birds with one stone. Then you need to look no further than TapTapSend. So TapTapSend is a money remittance application with multiple payment options. You can send money directly to bank accounts. You can send money directly to M-Pesa or any other mobile transfer platform. I know you have so many questions. You can get all your questions answered and all the information you need kwa website ya TapTapSend, which we have included in the description ya hii video. Also remember, TapTapSend has zero transaction fees. Zero transaction fees and great exchange rates. Na hiyo imaanishi ati kuna hidden costs. No hidden costs. The amount of money you see on the app is the exact amount of money that the recipient will get. And here's more good vibes from TapTapSend. All first-time users will get a $30 cashback if you use our promo code Wicked Edition. There's a question of where do you get these people with common ideas without shortchanging each other, it's a brilliant idea for wealth creation. But how do you get around that?
Now, this is where a strong culture has to come in. You know, the human nature is that you can either sacrifice now for tomorrow's success, or you celebrate now for tomorrow's failure. Let's just take a student. If a student, you party all the time, you're enjoying your time now. That means translate of failing your exam, which means not a very bright career. Versus a student that read all day and night, suffering to become a doctor, 20 years later is making more money. So it needs a principle whereby everybody in that organization sees their vehicle for tomorrow is their corporation, not what they will get now. But that is what's missing nowadays, whereby when you see a group of people coming together, what they try to look for is, how can I get these resources so I can go and use them for my own benefit? So it's just a trick to get together so they get the resources. So it takes a very strong will person to be able to lead organizations like those. And not only that, let's say it back to the idea I was talking about, the nilotic factor. If you go to the construction industry today, the best engineers, arguably you might say they're from Nyanza. The best interior design, you might say they also come from Nyanza. The best carpentry, the best lawyers. What about these people with this different career? They come together and they bring these old services. So the only thing that they are buying is the material. How cheap can they be able to build houses or what we call apartments? Now, going back to the idea of generation wealth. But that idea of selfishness is preventing from that happening. You know, I know, he know, this is a potential. But the ego, the selfishness is too strong that it cannot let us make that one big step to be able to open this channel that can be able to open for both of us and our families.
And that was a brilliant explanation. You explained the nilotic culture as an example of hindrance to wealth creation. Like, yes, Luos are engineers. This is an example from Luos. It's personal. Luos can be engineers, they can be doctors, but they don't own the hospital. Yeah. They don't own the engineering company. Oh, yeah. So this could innately, this could somehow be traced to success of the individual, yeah, not of the community. There is no oneness.
No oneness. And this is the factor. As long as we don't know how to invest our communion capital, we will always be at disadvantage wherever we go. Until we are able to solve that, our success will always be minimum. We will always be working for somebody else. So if you go now a community whereby they go to other people's hospital, they go to other people's school, so you pay like almost 10 times more. Let's say we build a school, example, South Sudan is why in the US, we're spending a lot of money on a school, and very expensive school. And because Kenya is a free country, if we take the same amount of money and we build a school for ourselves, for every amount of fee we educate one child, we will be able to educate 10 kids. You see? That means now that relieves some of the fund that we're going to. So 100 children, you can educate at the budget of 10 kids you are paying on other person in school. So that relieves the 90% of this budget to go and do another thing within the community.
The net benefit is bigger in a community context than from the individual
context. Yeah. So if you want to survive the 21st century as a community, community consumption is the way to go.
Community consumption.
Yeah. And I think one of the group that's doing really very good job now in Kenya are the Kisis. Kisis, it went to the point whereby in other part of Kenya, they were being denied land. So what they will do sometimes, they will just send one person and everybody is under that one person. So they did that in Nakuru. Yeah, communion consumption is the way to go. And the wealth is also linked to a political power. So it's not just a vote. You can have all voters, but if you don't have a capital to be able to mobilize these voters so that they can go to the ballot, then you don't have a political influence.
You will always work for someone else.
You have to work for somebody else.
Wow.
So that is the reality of the world we are living in.
Okay. This story starts, your story is a story of hope and inspiration in a very special way, and that's why we're having this conversation. This story starts in Sudan, the Lost Boys. I've done research kidogo on the Lost Boys of South Sudan, and you are one of them.
Yeah.
If you can please take us, just so that people can get an impression of how much, because you're getting to where you are now, that's where it's a story of hope and legit inspiration, right? Starts in 1987, okay? Please break down for us, just paint a picture of where your story starts, because when I got into the project you're doing in Nakuru, the first question was, how do you feel getting into such a house, being a person who has been to the refugee camp, right? Where I have been to and I've seen that situation, right? And the refugee situation is actually a relief compared to what comes before the refugee camp.
Yeah.
Please paint for us a picture, where this starts, 1987.
Yeah, so the war actually broke out in 1983, and
Yes.
as the years progresses, the conflict intensified. So that's when the leadership of Dr. Garang at the time, with his commanders, they said it would be a good idea where we take the young boys out of the country. So we have to be sent to Ethiopia. Some of the lost boys also were brought to the Uganda border, a place called Palataka.
Boys specifically.
Yeah,
they were very specific boys.
there were boys. There were girls, but majority of the people were boys.
Why?
Well, different people have a different explanation. Some people think that it was a plan for the movement to keep this group as a training reservoir. So when you get older, you get trained and then you reinforce the movement, because at the time we were fighting. Some suggested that it was for the purpose of school, so that it take us to school. And they say that the older generation will be fighting the war and the younger one will be going to school. But in Ethiopia, and the other areas, they have access to the boys at the time. But at the time, the Ethiopia went into a civil war, and the boys has to cross back into South Sudan. Kakuma refugee was open, and so the first population started coming to Kakuma around 1992.
Around 1992.
1992. And then that's when they start opening schools. And those schools, for the first time, because in Sudan we didn't have access to education, for the first time we start learning in those refugee camps. The life was not that comfortable.
So one night you are at home, you're a young boy in your family home. Okay, no. The conflict started in 1983.
Yeah, that's right.
So there's no peace.
Yeah, there's no peace.
So anytime something bad can happen.
Yeah.
And how do you get gathered? It's 27,000 boys, right?
So what they used to do is, in South Sudan, we have, especially among the Dinka tribe, majority of these lost boys, they were primarily from Dinkas and Nuer. So they call each chief, and each chief has to produce certain number of kids. So this is how people were selected. Okay. Yeah. So when they were selected, they were based on the chief. And even when they went first, they were in a group based on the clan. And then when they arrived to the final destination, Ethiopia, that's when they were mixed. So you now have to live with people from different parts of the country.
Different parts of the country.
From different parts of the country.
So is there transportation to take you from point A to Ethiopia?
No. No, it was on food. And that's why
on food?
Yeah, that's why a lot of kids actually died. And particularly there was a big tragedy after the civil war in Ethiopia, and the kid have to come back to Sudan. There was an incident whereby the kid were shot into a river, and a very big number of the kids they drowned in the river. We did a lot of walking. Even at the time we came up to the Kenyan border, I think I come and voted my first vehicle in Lokiokio to take me to Kakuma. So the rest of the trip in Sudan was on foot.
What does a day look like from the day you leave home?
It's tough. Sometimes you don't know if you're gonna make it, because we were in a rebel control areas, and the government air force sometimes will come with an airplane, and when they detected you, they will just bomb you, you know. So
No.
yeah,
Government of...
the Sudan government before we become South Sudan.
So you walk and you are hiding at the
Yeah, we
same
are
time.
hiding at the same time. So a lot of time you will hide out during the day, and then you will walk at night. And then when you walk at night, you are also at the risk of the wild animal to attack you. So some of the kids actually, and some of the people were killed by wild animal. So
do you have a direction, or you're just following the crowd?
well, the thing is with there were caretakers, although there were not many. I think there were caretakers of almost about not more than 2,000, but you are talking about a population of about 27,000 kids. So the ratio of the caretakers to the kids were very minimal.
And what are you eating during this journey of 6 months?
Well, the beauty of South Sudan, there is almost a food everywhere. You can get it in the form of plant, you can get it in the form of animal, but whenever there is established a refugee camp, usually the UN come through. Although it's not much, but the UN usually come through.
Okay. So now you walk this journey. Do you make friends? Do you have people you know? Like, do you have a group, or it's just 27,000 strong where you will find stability?
Well, so the 27,000, so when they left home, Sudan, we have this like what we call like administrative block, like let's say sub-county. So each sub-county will have a representative and the children. So let's say we were working, Nairobi will go, and then the children of Naivasha or Nakuru will go, the people of, Wasingisu will go like that. So they go into those groups when those journeys were happening. But as the war progressing, people get older and now become more mixed. That was from the beginning when people were still young, and yeah.
Yes. When you get to the refugee camp now, did you first go to Ethiopia, or you just came to Lokichogio directly and then you go to the camp?
Actually, I went even up to Uganda. That is me alone now, my separate journey. And then I came back to the camp. But what of the boys, some of the boys, when they came through Ethiopia to South Sudan, and then they crossed into Uganda, into Kakuma. So the gentleman that opened Kakuma actually went to Australia later. His name was Jang Alak.
Okay. And what's the hope you're holding on right now? Because I believe when you get to Kakuma is where the offer for resettlement to the United States comes, right?
So it was not a clear cut. Actually, we have been in the camp for over 10 years.
You stayed in the camp for over 10 years?
Yeah. So the resettlement started in the early 2000. We got to the camp around 1992. That's when we first come to the camp.
Yeah.
In those camps, sometimes they don't enough food. So in order for us to survive, you have to eat one meal a day for like 10 days. And from the 14 days to the 15 days, sometimes you have to eat like almost every other day. And the food we were given were not really nutritious food at all. You were given about 7 kg of maize and 7 kg of wheat flour. and a cup of bean, and a cup of cooking oil. So in order for those to last, you have to gather the food in a group, and now you manage it out. But at the time, the leaders of the movement, they were really very encouraging. So they usually come to us and visit us, and they said, now we are fighting, we will think that we are going to liberate the country, so your job is to get education. So when the country is liberated, you will come and run the country. That was the hope that was given to us at the time.
Yes. So I'll be interested to know how this affects you, like the rationing of the food. Because my first meeting with you, when we came to see you in Nakuru, the first thing you asked after greeting us was, have you guys eaten? Or do we get food here? Or do we go get food where we are supposed to go next, right?
Yeah.
I would assume when you talk about rationing, it should actually affect you with scarcity mentality so much that I don't know where this caring about what the other person eats comes from. Does the rationing affect you, or is it something you move on from at some point?
Well, it's a more of a culture of where I come from. The fair thing is, when you see a visitor, you have to offer them food and water. That is more of a South Sudanese culture. But the way it has affected me, most even after I went to the United States, I'm actually a guy I eat one meal a day. Not because of scarcity, but that is what my body gets used to.
Yes,
if I eat lunch, I'm not going to eat supper. If I eat supper, I'm not going to eat lunch or breakfast. So it's just what I'm used to.
You got used to that.
Yeah, my body got used to it. Yeah.
And then in the camp, when the offer for resettlement comes to the United States, I watched some of the documentaries of the Lost Boys, and I saw two things stand out for me. I'll tell you the first one now. People used to go to the board, you just check your name. If it's not there, you go back. And there's a gentleman who had gone to, I think this was one of the documentaries was by 60 Minutes, where he had gone to the board like 25 times. And I think he got chosen on his 25th time. It was unbelievable that he actually saw his name. Right?
Is it Taban, the short one? There was a short guy. Actually, he went to Kansas City, but
yes.
I
think he was supposed to go to Chicago, and then it was changed last minute
to Kansas City.
Yes. So he sees his name. It's like a miracle, right?
Yeah.
He sees his name and he goes. You also are part of the people who are going to the board to check your name.
Yeah.
But your story has an interesting twist.
So after I was not able to get opportunity in the camp,
yes,
I decided to get out of the camp.
Yes.
Looking for a scholarship. After I did my KCPE, I really got a very good mark. At the time, got about 470 mark, and that was supposed to take me to provision in school, but I don't have the money.
So you have checked the board enough times that you lost hope.
Yeah.
And then you decide to leave the camp to look for opportunities elsewhere.
Yeah.
Okay.
So I came to Nairobi, and there was a lady named Sister Louise that was offering a scholarship for the refugees.
Yes.
So there were two scholarships. Either you go to high school or you go to a technical college.
Yes.
So he gave me an opportunity, and I went to a technical college. I went to St. Kizito, Githurai, where I went and studied my electrical installation. So through that scholarship, Sister went back to the U.S. Embassy and said, these kids are part of the boys that have already gone to the U.S. And the embassy was able to open application for us. And so that is how I was able to get opportunity. So they just went to the camp and crossed my name out. And then they just, out of my card, I went to the U.S. Because when you have a card, the refugee card, the same thing is Nairobi is the same thing in the camp. Okay. So if you get a resettlement here in Nairobi, it will be canceled out there in the camp. Yeah.
In the camp.
Yeah.
So if you had not made a conscious decision to leave the camp, stop looking for your name on the board, to come look for opportunities elsewhere, you would probably be still in the camp.
I will still be in the camp now. So sometimes you have to take a risk. You know, sometimes you have to put yourself in a right place to be able to get the blessing that you need to get. Even for me, what actually opened the door for me was one time when I was in the camp. I want to read, but they know lamps. So I went to the gate of the United Nations, where I was reading using a street light.
Yes, yes.
And a young lady, she was from Western Kenya. She came and he asked me, "What are you doing?" And then I said, "I'm trying to read." And then he said, that is really very inspiring that you want to learn. And because I went to school late, you know, I really want to learn, but I don't have opportunity. But the school in the camp were not that good. So this lady, we become friends. And later, he got sick. And he was admitted in Kakuma Mission, which was about 5 kilometers away from where I was living. And so after I learned that he was sick, I went to the hospital. I walked on foot to the hospital about 5 kilometers. And I got her sister named Rita, and a guy later I learned that was her boyfriend, which was the camp manager, Noah and Kevin. So they were so touched, and then they say, "What do you want us to do for you?" Then I say, "I want to go to school." So they sent me to a boarding school. My school fee was about 600 shilling a year, but I could not afford 600 shilling at the time. So going to that school has made me learn more about the Kenyan culture, the way of life among the Kenyans. So then expectation. So even after I finished 8th grade, going to the camp was a little bit like a demotion of life. So I have to figure out what I need to do. So that's how I got out of camp.
Okay.
Yeah.
And what there's how you get out of the camp. There is decisions you made that led, one point leads to another, right? On a level, someone can say, interesting point. But what do you learn about the idea of opportunities from that experience?
Well, I was on the internet the other day and I see a bad chick which just got out of nest. And it came across a very big fat insect. But this chick has not grabbed an idea that you have to grab the insect in order to eat. Because what he used to in the nest, he opened the mouth and the mother drop it.
Aye.
So he will just run around and he will think that the insect will jump to his mouth or her mouth. So they just keep running on the ground and it's not picking up.
Yes.
So you have to be conscious about how do you translate the opportunity into reality. So when I become friends with most of the UN staff, one of the difficult things in the camp at the time we had in the camp, getting a travel document was hectic. Yes. Refugees were not allowed to go past Lodwar. So you have to have a genuine reason to be able to be given a travel document, even to come to this part of the country.
Yes.
So I was able to exploit that one to be able to get my travel document. And at the time, my brother-in-law told me about the opportunity that was here because he came here and they gave him a training for carpentry. So I came, but to me, I'm more of academic kind of guy. I'm not a handy guy. Mm-hmm. So I really want to go to high school.
Yes.
But I could not afford to go to high school. So I was looking for high school. So this lady gave me a scholarship and he said, "It's your choice. Take the technical training, or there's no scholarship." So I have to take a technical training and go back. Yeah. So at the time when my application to US came, so I went to the United States without even doing a high school altogether.
Yes.
So I went to a junior college. They tested me and I passed for college classes. So I jumped the entire high school and go to technical college, go to 2 years college to where I went to the university.
In the US?
Yeah, in the US. Yeah.
What is, now as we close into how you come back to invest in Nakuru and the work you're doing there, what is your experience in the US?
US is a great place. you can get anything that you want. But if you are looking into a future, it will take more than just having a good job, having a good house. It will take more than that. For me, I'm more of an Africanist in heart. And when you talk about the history of the world, the situation that the people of African descent have gone through is heartbreaking. Sometimes we look for outside world to come and help us. We think we are not being respected enough. We think that we are not being dignified. But for those to come and for the world to give us that respect we might deserve, it starts with the changing of the quality of life of our people. So at the time I went to the United States, I thought just helping few children going to school was not enough. So what I realized is either in a small way, I can take whatever I can take from this economy and inject it back home to do some project that can change other people's life. So that's what made me come back and start a business. So when I started my first construction, I was in the university, I was in the second year. So I will make the small amount I will make. Even if I have like 10 fundis or 3 fundis, my attitude was not, I'm building a house for me. My attitude was, at least there are 3 families back in Africa that have a lunch today because of what I'm doing. So that are what would be my mindset.
So now, this is inspired by the zeal for greater good, right?
Yeah.
So you are the idea to invest in real estate. Does it come from just the general need to provide shelter, or understanding of resources at that level that real estate is the best format of investment?
So from the cultural background I came from,
yes,
we a community that live in a very small lifestyle, whereby you have your livestock, you have a little bit of grain, and you're good to go, as long as you can be able to sustain yourself. But in 21st century, if you want to survive, that cannot be retainable for several generations to come. So when you think about building a generational wealth, a real estate is the way to go. And the reason is it appreciates with over time. It is a good whole of value. The first property that you see in China's Gulf, when we bought that land 14 years ago, it cost us only about $13,000 US, which at the time, because exchange rate was down, was about 900,000 Kenyan shilling.
You say we.
Yeah. Please
explain to us we before we proceed.
So what happened is, I have a friend of mine. His name is Isaiah Scholl. Isaiah Scholl, when I came and bought the land myself as Gabriel. So when I went back to the United States, Isaiah said, Gabriel, for this project to finish quick, let's form a group so we build this apartment quicker. And I agreed to it. So when we were able to get about 14 people. But when it was time to start the work, all the other 12 people, they dropped out, and I was left with Isaiah alone. So at the time, I gave Isaiah a certain percentage, although I was doing the more percentage, I remained with that percentage.
Okay.
So the success of that, the first project,
yes,
is what actually triggered the second project, which is the centerpiece that you went the other day. Yeah. Yeah.
So you buy land first.
Yeah.
But before you buy land, there's when I watched the documentaries of the Lost Boys,
yeah,
I saw 2 stories. One, there's a separate documentary from the one by 60 Minutes.
Mm-hmm.
There's a gentleman I didn't get the name correctly, but he was wearing a suit. He had done political science.
Okay.
And he actually met General Joseph Lagu
Okay.
to present a gift to send to the president, because as Lam, the musician, was organizing the independence story, he was trying to get access to the political class because he felt that he's of greater use to his country, South Sudan, than he is to America. But he couldn't get, I don't think he was successful. So I actually, by the end of the documentary, they say that he went back to the US, awaiting any opportunity. He was fixing to get a job with the embassy or ambassadorial job, okay? And when we were conversing before, you say that there's a lot of opportunities, say, in South Sudan, okay? But there are certain guarantees that the government maybe should provide in terms of security and stuff, okay? But then when I listen to your story again, you say your experience in Kenya around that time, say the example you gave me of Githurai, it's very harsh especially for people who are not welcoming to people who have come from a different country, okay?
Yeah.
It makes it very difficult. How do you arrive at the decision to trust such a hostile environment to decide to start your investment here?
So with Kenya, one thing we need as investors, whether you're Chinese or Ethiopian or whoever, is a protection of your investment. There's a sense of rule of law in Kenya that guarantee that if you do something and you do it in a genuine way, you can be able to do it. A small hiccup whereby somebody's bitter somewhere, you're not going to meet that. They will be there. But they say crawl of a croc does not prevent the
Cow from
drinking water. Yeah.
Yeah.
I am here with you today because of there's such a situation, especially when Centerpiece was opened by Lee Kenyajui. Tuko covered the story.
Yes,
And there was such a bitterness amongst some section of Kenyans about me building something like that. With that result, I came across, I was just reading about all these painful messages. And I came across one lady, her name was Terry. Terry was the only person defending me along the crowd. So I later decided to hit her up, and I realized later she's an engineer. So I started giving her a job in Nakuru. I will call her to come and do some installation.
Yes.
Terry has a friend named Caleb, which is your friend.
Yes.
So because of the hatred,
Caleb Karuga, yes.
Yeah.
We meet through Caleb Karuga, yes.
Karuga, because of the hatred, people were showing toward me as actually what has given me a platform today. So such a minor thing. You can't take them seriously. So sometimes people will try that they think that they are destroying you, but they are promoting you without them even knowing that they are promoting you.
Let me give you an example.
Yeah.
Before you finish, we break down that point further.
Yeah.
There's a perception of the Sudanese people.
Yeah.
And there's no way you are running away from being a victim of that.
Yeah.
In this sense, it's not necessarily a perception. You know this to be true.
Yeah.
There is the political class from South Sudan who are alleged to be hiding their wealth in Kenya, right? And this, I believe, comes from an interview done by Jeff Koinange of the son of a South Sudanese politician who was very careless with how he was talking, and the opulence he was showing, it does not come from wisdom of knowing how money works. When someone listens to you, someone can understand, someone can get the impression, and it's very clear that you know what money is. But there's this interview, I hope we can get it after this, just so that we give a link to it for people, because it's very clear. And even I, from a point of no information, I would probably get angry. As someone who has gone to the camp and seeing how people are living, right? And seeing how people are living, okay? Seeing how people are living in the camp, but then people from the same country, South Sudan, living in opulence, ideally in the African perception from stolen funds, okay? Allegedly, funds that have been stolen, okay? You're bound to get mixed up in this, even if you're an honest investor who understands how money works. So if someone bashes you, it's from a point of no information or from a point of wrong information, right? So there is no way of escaping that,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
And you're very gracious not to have gotten mad at, okay, but then you'll probably feel, you'll probably get angry at where this perception comes from.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
So the emotional intelligence you have to actually analyze this as the crux versus the cow, crux of a frog versus a cow, because ignorance is no defense, right?
Yeah.
You still go ahead and invest.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
And the protection of your investment, the choice between, let's say, for example, land is a valuable resource, okay? South Sudan is bigger than Kenya,
Yeah.
right? Right?
Yeah, way bigger.
But people will not see the value of land there because of the conflict.
Yeah.
Do you think, before we proceed, do you think it is by design that people don't know the value of land in South Sudan? Because Sudan has resources.
Yeah.
If people open their eyes, it will contribute to the general wealth of Africa as a continent,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah, South Sudan can be a breadbasket for the entire East African region if we choose to. Because you are talking about the area of Kenya, Uganda combined with a population of 10 million heritable land, which is almost 90% heritable land. There used to be a joke among the South Sudanese that even if you plant a nail on our land, it will grow. That is how fertile the land is. We don't even use fertilizer.
And Kenya, with 53 million people,
Yeah.
is just 18% arable.
Yeah. So we are almost 100%. We are actually 100% because I don't remember any part of South Sudan with the desert. Because when you go past Abyei, that's where the desert starts going to the north. You see. Coming back to what you said, during the war, Dr. Grant once said, I have done everything for my people. The only thing that I was not able to do is to bring a gun that shoots by itself and a person that will manage public resources. I don't know if it is a cultural thing. We have a huge problem when it comes to managing our public resources. And that's what we are trying to do with the organization that we found in the US that I'm working on now, is the testimony of how public resources have to be managed. So with the resources that I took from some of my colleagues from the US, I might not have them today to say, here is your thing, but you can be able to go and see physical on the ground where these resources have been deployed.
Tell us how this comes about.
So what I did at the time, it took us almost about 5 years to build that project in Centerpiece.
Yes.
In 5 years, we were able to mobilize almost about over $2 million.
Over a period of 5 years.
5 years, yeah.
You raised $2 million.
Yeah.
Okay.
So with that $2 million, we didn't raise them and then go and do the work. We build as we go. If we get 100,000, we put to work. If we get 50,000, we put it to work. So that became an example of how to manage public resources. So when I was done with that, a different group came up and said, how do I do my own? I don't want to be a part of a group. I want to do my own. Then that is where we come up with the idea of common infrastructure, where everything, the road, the park are shared, but you have your own that you can be able to build. And with that, we are now working on a project that will build about 130 homes. So that is going to be a project of about 2 billion Kenyan shilling when everything is built. So if that 2 billion Kenyan shilling is invested in Kenya, that will be one of the largest community wealth sitting in one space. But if we didn't do that, for example, The first 2 million that I collected, that I built the joint group project, if you go and select the same number of people in the community and analyze how much they are make in that period of 5 years and where the resources are, none of them will be able to show you where those money have gone, except the group that I called together and put their resources together and invest them as a group. That kind of investment is not only helping the investors, but it also helps a local community. When we went to that side of Centerpiece in 2016, the land was going around 2.5 million. Currently, around that neighborhood, the land has appreciated to about 9 million. That is about 260% appreciation, enjoyed by all the community that you saw over there in that place.
Okay.
Yeah.
And how do you separate the feeling of we are creating an investment worth, we are targeting 2 billion Kenya shillings, the value over a period of time. How do you separate the we are going to create an investment of 2 billion versus the pride of after X number of years, say 5 years, I'll be a billionaire. Me, I'll be a billionaire. How do you separate the balance?
For me, I feel like I'm doing my part as a citizen of this continent. Even at the time I left Africa in pain and in suffering, I always know my future is here. The reason why you see in the Western country there is what we call social services, whereby the disadvantaged, they are given handout, is because of realizing that if the person next to you is not doing well, you're also not going to have a peace of mind. So if we are going to build that continent, the Africa that we are all proud of, not only build a business of getting a wealth, but make an investment of purpose. Like, what is the impact of what you're doing? That should be the priority. It's not what is the value of what I get. Whatever the value of what you get came as a second thing. But the impact should be the first priority. So if that happens, you can be able to build wealth, but with also a sense of happiness. You know, you went to my side. You see a lot of young guys that are working there, you know. So to me, my focus a lot of time is not about what is the value, personal value, or the money I'm getting out of it, but what is the social impact of what I'm doing. So if it's going to stand, and I see the social value, that area is not going to be the same.
Okay. Okay.
Because if you see 100 homes, and those 100 families come back and live in those houses, that means Mama Boga will benefit. Somebody selling the water will benefit. The landscaper will benefit. Those are the jobs are going to be created as the result of bringing that community where it is. Okay. And then in return, you now have opportunity like me. My child is not growing up in a strange place. My child is growing up in African culture, whereby when he decides to go to the US in the future, he's going to US because he has to be forced to, but he's going because he wants to.
Okay.
That is the environment, because, and it's something that should pain us when we see on Monday, seeing our people lining up on looking for visa in German embassy, Australian embassy, Canadian embassy. It's something that we should not be so proud of. Why we can't build the same kind of world that we go to back here when we have everything?
It is possible.
It's possible, but it needs a change of mind to be able to do that. So that is a challenge for every person that has gone to diaspora.
Okay.
How do you use the resources back in diaspora, back home?
Okay.
Because at the end of the day, anyway, it's very easy for a child of a migrant who went to the US or Canada to get lost. But when you go as a grown person,
yes,
it will take you less than 5 years to move from a migrant to the middle class. So there's nothing wrong with us as people. There's just something wrong with the system. And to be able to fix that, we have to come with the new system and to inject that new system.
Okay.
Some of the people you saw there, Some of them have worked for me for about 10 years. Actually,
I saw the pictures, people who you
Yeah.
started with from the first project.
yeah. Actually, I can run projects sometime and while I'm in the US, and I will not be worried about stealing. And this is the same Kenyan that I'm hiring.
Okay, okay.
The thing is, you have to plan that culture of what we are building is a vehicle for both of us. So what you do is, you as a worker, you are the lifeline of the company. And the company in return has to look for the interests of the worker. So, but what is happening now with a lot of companies in African countries is the opposite, whereby the employer, he wants the employee to work for almost next to nothing. You as employee, because you have to survive, lazima ujipange.
Yes, yes, yes. That's
So
why people steal.
ukijipange, nini inaumia. So later the companies close down and everybody go home, and then they go and open a new one.
Yes, 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 yes.
So there is so many aspects of things that need to be changed
Okay.
in order for us to move on as a society.
You give a very good example. We see our people applying for visas to go to Germany, to go to the US,
Yeah.
whereas we can build the world they are going for
Yeah.
back here.
Back here.
What we need is a change of mind.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
I'll take you through the idea of change of mind.
Yeah.
I've been privileged to. I've worked with UNHCR for a very long time, and they took me to Kakuma refugee camp to go see what happens there.
Yeah.
And when I go there, one of the saddest things that I saw was that at the refugee camp, there was divisions. In this sense, I think there was a division, if I remember correctly, the Dinka was separated, the Nuer was separated.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
And this broke my heart because I was like, these people left, the individuals left their country, and they know how the ugly side of war. But you still transfer the situation that you left at home
In your country, over here.
to a country where I thought, and this is where change of mind comes. Shouldn't this be a cause for reflection to see that you can actually achieve more by working together? You can actually, if Kenya can work with the resources that we have, right? Sudan has actually more than enough that people don't have to suffer in the camp, right? You can just, you see the way you're thinking in terms of multiplication, in terms of opportunities, right? What do you think it would take to have a change of mind? Because I think that solves the refugee situation in Kakuma.
Yeah, the problem of South Sudan is a very sad story. The long conflict has seeded very deep ethnic hatred and resentment sometimes. For example, Juba is the capital of South Sudan. If we go, although my tribe, where I come from, we are the dominant in the term of power control. But where the land is, which is out of the Dinka territory. If we go now to South Sudan, in Juba area, there's a very good chance you will be given a land before me. And not because of anything that I did wrong, but just because of my background. And you cannot blame them. You know, even a cat, if every time you raise your hand, you slap a cat. Every time you raise your hand, you slap a cat. The cat will correlate raising a hand and a slap.
Yeah.
So there has been so many things that happen like that, whereby the ethnic tension is, if certain group do this, the result will be that. So even if you come from outside, that is stereotype, you fall into it. Mm-hmm. And it's something that will be difficult to change. So what we are doing sometimes is, I do what called personal responsibility. Now I've done it twice, whereby I flew out some of tradition chiefs from other areas of South Sudan that are not my community, and brought them to Kenya to come and show them what we were able to achieve. And sometimes the question will be like, why don't you come back home to come and do it? And then we said, because of A, B, C, D. That's why we're not doing it. But now we put them in a place whereby they have to have a second thought about some of the decisions that I'm making. So if you go to play like Juba,
Yes.
it's like Lavington and Kibera built in the same space. They no sense of organization at all, you know. And this is so. What they do is they will go and measure a new land, and then they just do the same model. They know a sense of class, but it's something that if we allow to come, if somebody call us to come and do it, it's something that we can do successfully. You have seen the amount of project we have done.
Yes, I've seen.
Yeah.
You had the option, you had the opportunity to go to the US, right?
Yeah.
And the US seems like, okay, when you hear the American dream, right? I'm in the America, I have suffered, I have lived in the refugee camp, I have worked for 6 months as a young boy, I have seen suffering. This is my time to relax. Why didn't you relax? Why didn't you, what is the motivation you get? Like the trigger to do more, the trigger to open your mind for more ideas. You could have comfortably lived in the US.
Yeah. We as a human being, no matter how much we get,
Yes.
you're gonna wear one pair of shoes at a time. You're gonna take one cup of tea at a time. Even if I double your income today, you're not gonna consume more than you can. But one thing that you can change is the impact of our actions. So when I went to the US with some of my colleagues, we were able to put a lot of kids to school because of
Back
that.
home.
Yeah.
Like you are in the US?
Yeah, you are sending money back home to put these children in school. So to me, I thought, okay, what about if we age out, our children are growing up in American system, they don't know their cousin. It's not like my children are going to support the children of my sibling as I'm supporting, or the children of their cousin as I'm supporting children of my sibling now. They will not be able to do that. So what we need to factor in is now the opportunity we are getting, how do we translate into a generational wealth? A generational wealth also will change the landscape of where we are coming from. I used to have a small part-time in the US, and the place I was working is actually next to a graveyard. If you go to America, the graveyards are so beautiful, you don't see it as a graveyard. They are planned with the flowers, and the tombstone, they are clean. So you see it's just Imangaratu. So
they make death look good.
So I'm saying, if these people can even afford to make their dead live comfortably, or whatever, their grave look comfortably, why our living people, they can live in a pain how they are. So I said, let me just take my social responsibility part of my work, whatever investment I will do, I will just go and do it back home. And then I was encouraged at the time. There was really a very strong migration that between Europe, and there was a lot of young men from West Africa that were drowning in the Mediterranean Sea. You will go to a place like Italy, the boat will be turned away. 2 days later, you just learn the boat has sank in the sea. It pained me. So I said, I just want to do my part. No matter how small it is, let me just do it.
That's a very powerful observation, and a deep one for that matter. Ati, the dead people in American graveyards would appear to have better conditions than people who are alive in Africa.
Yeah, it's sad. It's sad. So that we might say, when Dr. Grant, when the peace was signed, they asked him, so where will South Sudan begin? Then he said, South Sudan will begin where the wall is. We don't have to go and start it back. Wherever the wall is, that's where we'll begin. Now the wall has made a lot of progress, and Africa is still lagging behind. We forget the fact that we are the most richest continent. Why it becomes so difficult for this richness to be translated into reality. Mm-hmm. So this should be a generational challenge. The people of a generation. You might say those of Mzee Jomo Kenyatta, Mzee Nyerere, somebody like Mandela, those were Kwame Nkrumah, Those were liberation generation, and they have gone. They bring that freedom that we need. We should be the transformative generation. How do we now transition our people from the situation they are living in to the global economy that they're supposed to enjoy? Because it seems like there's nothing wrong with the people. That's why they become successful when they go to the US. There's nothing wrong with the people.
Yes. But that's also another observation.
Yeah.
The same person uprooted from South Sudan becomes successful in the US.
Yeah. Why not here?
So there is someone in South Sudan right now presented with the same opportunity.
Yeah.
They also have a chance to be as successful.
Yeah.
I'm sure you've done the mathematics. It was interesting to learn. I know this is I think it's foolish of me to admit that I learned that South Sudan has a lot of oil.
Yeah, we do. So what happened is the idea of Dr. Grang was use the oil revenue to diversify the agriculture sector and the agriculture to be the backbone. That is why at the time we got independent, our pound was equivalent to about $2. But because that management has not gone well, we were not able to make a transition on time, to the point now the trouble would start in Sudan and the oil has been shut down. So whatever we collected over time were not well managed, and that is where mismanagement situation you were telling me earlier about that interview, this is where it come in. So the public resources have not been managed properly.
Okay.
There are two situations. For a change to come, you either have a visionary population, like in the situation of Kenya, or you have to have a very visionary leadership, as in situation of Rwanda. So in absence of these two, progress is so difficult. You either have a visionary leadership
or a visionary population.
A visionary population. So the situation of Kenya, even the transformation from the Moi rule to whereby Kibaki came in, and Kibaki was able to make a very quick progress. I can proudly say it. If Kenya would have transitioned directly to another kind of rule at the time when the election was held, Kenya would not be where it is today. But it took somebody like Kibaki to be able to break that and map a different pathway.
I've never thought of it like that. So if Kenya had transitioned
to another Kanu.
Before that, if Kenya had okay, I get it. If Kenya would have transitioned to a Kanu from
another Kanu,
we would have seen trouble. But if Kenya had transitioned to a Kibaki after independence, we would be Singapore.
Yeah, it would. Yeah, it would have been. And it's two-way, by the way. If Kibaki would be the first president, or maybe after Jomo Kenyatta, Kibaki, Kenya would have been different. But if Kibaki would have not got into power in 2002, Kenya would not be where it is today now.
It will be worse.
It will be worse. But Kibaki, when Kibaki came, he built a different roadmap. And now that is the roadmap. Everybody try to follow that path of Kibaki. Whether you fall short or you're achieving it, is that path of Kibaki.
Yes.
Like, just say, even if it would have from Moi to Uhuru, is different from Moi, Kibaki to Uhuru. It's different, quite different.
Interesting observation. Interesting observation.
So transformative leadership or population.
Visionary population.
Visionary population. And where the visionary population is when the Kenyan population put a pressure on the Kanu rule and be able to break the Kanu neck to be able to bring the change. That what it did not come because of the wish of the ruling class. It come because of the wish of the Kenyan people.
Understood.
That what make that change.
Understood. Before we close, when Caleb introduced us, And I think I also mentioned this to Raphael when he came on the show. Um, when Caleb introduced us, we have, he said something very simple, like, a gentleman doing something in Nakuru, go check it out, okay? And then we come and we find it's a massive project. And now we've just talked about real estate. Now you have, one highlight of the conversation was why he really advised that we come check out the project was because you have found a strategy to reduce the cost of owning a home by at least 30%.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
We discussed this with Raphael, but please tell us how you arrive at these numbers.
So there's this new technology called precast. So I think there's about 5 precast companies in Kenya, and we happen to be one of them. Yes. But we are one of the precast company outside Nairobi. So we are in Nakuru. So we provide end-to-end services from the drawing to construction to the finishing good. So with us, if we have a project, we go to China to go and bring our finishing product. So let's say if this cup in China costs you about 10 shilling, we're going to bring that one at the price of 10 shilling. Maybe the only thing we'll factor in is for shipment. The precast...
I didn't catch that. If this cup costs 10 shillings. Yes.
Yeah, we are building a house. The cup is part of the house. It costs you 10 shillings. We're going to bring you with that for 10 shillings. There's nothing we're going to add except the shipment fee and the taxes from the government. So the finishing product, we are sourcing them from China. So if we have the project, everything for the finishing, we're going to bring it for you from China at the price that we get it in China.
Or at the price that you get in China.
Yeah.
And this is different from the price that you will get in Kenya.
Get in the Kenya hardware.
Okay, that's what.
And then now we have a precast, which is already, when you build with precast, you go directly to skimming. There is no plastering. Also, when you put things like lighting in, you're not going to use conduit. So with such a thing, you cut the costs. What become a major problem in Kenya industry? There is a very huge problem with dishonesty material. I can give you a quotation today of about house for 10 million. But when it's said and done later, and you sit down and you do your math, you have like spent twice of what you was expecting to use.
So ideally the house, when you do the mathematics correctly with honesty, a house that you can get quoted for 10 million shillings, it is possible to get the same quality for half the price.
Yeah, you can be able to do that.
5 million shillings.
Yeah,
same quality, integrity, and everything.
Yeah, and the where we are doing the saving is when we come with precast. So hakuna mwenye anasema ati simiti imepotea, sijui ati mchanga, is compact. So it's just a matter, and then you cut down also on the labor. You see, you come and cut on the labor.
Yes.
And then the only material that we're going to bring from you outside is something that we'll be able to quote, and we'll be able to know how many toilet seats we need, how many showers we need. So those are physical things. So nobody can give you half of a shower.
Yes.
You know.
Yes,
so that is where the saving come in.
Okay.
And but one of the most important thing is the quality of our work. I think you have seen it.
Yes, I've been there.
Yeah. If you see the house that we build, if you see that quality of work, we achieve it only at about 40,000 per square meter. Okay. And that is like the high end. In Nairobi, it will be between about 60 to 70,000 per square meter to achieve such a finishing. You go to the house, all the lighting are blue tubes, and there's all hot water all around the house.
Yes.
So you get more for your money.
Okay.
Yeah.
Sawa. I've been there. I believe that's a place I'll be visiting a few more times. There's a lot of hidden gems around that area. But most importantly, asante sana for sparing your time to share your knowledge with us. I believe our audience has enjoyed the content that you've shared and the information and the knowledge that you've imparted. The contacts on how to reach Gabriel and his team at Precast Engineering ama Centerpiece is highlighted hapa vizuri. This was a through pass, one of the most interesting conversations we followed up on, just a through pass from Caleb Karuga, who has been a guest on the show. Caleb came in speaking about agribusiness, and people thank you sana sana for the immense feedback you have shared. In case you missed that episode, Bishop ameiweka hapa juu, this card. Ukiangalia hapa kuna link ya how to get to that episode, but ukiangalia hapa chini you have the contacts on how to reach Gabriel and his team. Asante sana Gabriel.
Asante sana.